Good evening, friends. My name is Will Garrison. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm your pulpit host this evening. On behalf of this congregation, I'm happy to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Huntsville for this very special Solstice service. Whether you have joined us virtually through our live stream or are here in our sanctuary, as always, we are so glad to have you with us in this sacred time that we choose to be together. We are an open community for worship, learning, caring, and justice-making. Our congregation is served by our minister, the Reverend Jamie Dingus. She is available for pastoral care and to answer any questions you might have on Unitarian Universalism, and she can be contacted through the church office. At this time, let's all take a moment to take out our little electronic tethers and for a brief moment, create a sacred space by putting them into a silent mode. Hearing assistant devices for anyone who has a challenge hearing or wants to be able to hear better are available at the back of the sanctuary, as well as name tags near the name tags if anyone who wants those. To stay up to date on community news and events, please review our community announcements in our email newsletter or on the Facebook page or in your order of service. A special announcement for this evening, at the very least, we'd like to send a very, very warm welcome to Victoria Greer, who has played the wonderful harp music we all just enjoyed. Thank you. And a reminder for those of you who just are eager to come back first thing tomorrow morning, a reminder that tomorrow is a Christmas pancake breakfast instead of our typical service, and a Christmas Eve service will be held on December the 24th at 5:30 p.m. Thus, having gathered in a shared quest for truth, meaning, and purpose, let us light our chalice and enter into this evening's service more deeply with these words from The Circle Dance by Starhawk. This is the night of the solstice, the longest night of the year. Now darkness triumphs, and yet gives way and changes into light. The breath of nature is suspended. All waits while the dark king is transformed into the infant light. We watch for the coming of the dawn when the great mother again gives birth to the divine child son who brings the hope and promise of summer. This is the stillness of motion. This is when time itself seems to stop. The center, which is also the circumference of all. We are awake in the night. We turn the wheel to bring the light again. We call the sun from the, we call the sun from the womb of night. Blessed be. And now we will welcome forward our UUCH choir for our centering song, The Peaceful Night.
Good evening, friends. In some years, I've messed that up, but good evening. It's not morning, but it's a good time to be together. Welcome into our Solstice service. My name is Reverend Jamie Dingus. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm delighted that you've joined us in this time where we celebrate the longest night of the year. Tonight in our sanctuary, we will honor the beauty and power of darkness as we await the promise and renewal of light. We join with people of faith from different places and cultures and times who mark this solstice night. We honor this celebration as it is a part of the sacred practice of pagan and earth-centered peoples. And for as long as the reaches of human history can tell us, people have noticed and marveled at the changing of the seasons. They've felt the gentle shift as the nights get longer and longer, the days colder, leading us into the soft embrace of this longest night. We've watched the stars and planets circle and orbit and the skies change, and tonight we are here at the precipice. We brave together this longest night of the year, and from here we look forward to that gentle shifting for more moments and hours of light. Here we witness the natural cycles of things, the ways that we can count on this universe, this planet, changing and yet repeating in sacred rhythm. There is wisdom and hope in marking this time of the year. And there is wisdom in pausing in the heart of this darkness. So, dear ones, let's take a breath together and center in for worship with these words from Reverend Gretchen Haley. Out of the cold winter air we gather, as people have gathered for centuries in times of darkness to call out for the light. In this gathering of friends, let us take a few moments that we have set aside to breathe deeply, to pause in preparation, to welcome the stillness. Honor this winter time as a season of mystery, of silence. Allow ourselves to be stripped bare like the trees and rose bushes. Rest, reflect, surrender into grace. May this be so with us. And now, will you join me in singing our first hymn this evening? It's number 51 in your gray hymnal, Lady of the Season's Laughter. Let's sing together. Please rise in body or spirit. In the pagan tradition, which is grounded in a respect and reverence for the natural world, we begin ritual by calling upon the 4 directions. So you're already risen in body and spirit for this time. And in this time, we remember that each direction is associated with an element of the natural world and represents a part of our human nature as well. The directions are not seen as separate and isolated, but rather as part of the interdependent system that makes up the world. On our altar in the sanctuary this evening, we have objects symbolic of each element, and we will travel through the meanings as we begin this time of meditation. So will you face the east with me? I looked it up. East is our feather, and so it's kind of a this way direction. We begin in the east toward the rising sun. The element of the east is air, represented on our altar by a feather. Air and breath give us life. It is the direction of inspiration, the word that literally means to take in air. The east is associated with the mind, with knowledge and learning and intellectual curiosity. Imagine the birds turning and wheeling in the air, the breeze blowing through your hair. Turning toward the east, we look for a fresh start, an invigorating breath, a new idea. When you are feeling stuck in a rut, beholden to routine, or if the wind has gone out of your sails, look eastward. Now we will shift around our wheel to the south. It's this way. Sorry, y'all. No, did I get this backwards? Okay. We're going to go, where are we standing? We are going to go to the south. Perfect. Love y'all. The element of the south is fire. And in the southern place on our altar, the flame of our candle burns bright. Fire is a transformative force. It is heat and light and powerful change. In the northern hemisphere, it makes sense that we associate the south towards the equator with the warmth of the sun and the heat of the flame. We see birds move south, butterflies move south, whales move south, seeking warmer places when the weather gets cold. And when our internal weather gets cold, turning south can be a metaphor turning toward warmth and daylight, seeking out the change that will warm us up, get our blood moving, and call us out of our winters, out of hibernation into action. Continuing around our circle, we find our way to the west. The element of the west is water. We have water collected from our water communion ceremony to represent this element. We add to this water each year, symbolizing the way we come together in community as individual drops join into a mighty river. In the West, we are drawn into the experience of our emotions. It is the direction that calls us to self-reflection and self-understanding. Our emotions move in us like water, flowing through our lives, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, but always flowing. If you are seeking to get in touch with your inner life, with your emotions, we turn to the West. And finally, let's shift once more to the north. Represented here by some dirt on our altar, dirt from our own backyard. Here in the north is stability, the ground of our being. The north represents the place that holds us, that allows us time and space to heal and grow, to feel nurtured and respected. It is the place of embodiment, connecting with our physical self, with the concrete, tangible world around us. The north calls to you if you are seeking balance, the deep wisdom that lives in your bones, a place of rest and recovery. You may turn forward once again, reminded that we have placed our 4 directions on our altar. We call them into this service: east, air, breath; south, fire, transformation; west, water, reflection; north, earth, balance, and wisdom. Let us honor the wisdom and power of these directions as we return to our seats and take a few moments of silence together. And now I have a story to share with you, and I wonder if anyone was handed a character that might be a part of our story. Looks like some of you got them. Excellent. So if you were here for our Christmas pageant last week, you know the drill already, but you have characters, and when I mention your character, feel free to raise it up and wave it as a way to engage with our story this evening. A long, long time ago, when the earth was young, she would play all day long with the sun. The sun was young too, you see, and had lots of energy, probably like many of the young ones here. The earth had many names. Some called her goddess, the maiden, or sister. Nobody called her grandmother yet. She was too young for that. The sun was bold, hardly ever sleeping, rising so early and warming the earth so that day after day after day they could play together with wild, rollicking joy. But of course, as the goddess Earth grew up, she knew there was work to do. So she would get up early with the sun and go about her work, blooming the flowers, helping the trees grow big and strong, helping weave nests and dig burrows for all the animal friends. One of the goddess's best friends was a cardinal. A bright red bird who loved to play with the goddess and the sun, joining their games and helping in their work. The cardinal loved to sing. He would sing his heart out when the sun god got up in the morning, and again when the sun god was settling down for bed at night. But as the goddess Earth and the sun god grew older, the cardinal noticed that they were settling down a little bit. Slowing down a bit, you might say. And the cardinal realized that he too wanted to settle down and maybe find someone to love and cherish. So he sang his song, and sometimes the goddess would hold him on her finger and sing the song back. The earth and sun fell in love, and soon so did the red cardinal, with another cardinal, whose color was not quite so brilliant as his bright red plumage, but to his eyes, she was brighter than the sun itself. The cardinal and his mate sang together. They created a nest. Soon eggs appeared in the nest, followed not long after by little hatchlings, baby birds that were so cute. The goddess Earth came to admire them, and she brought gifts, a juicy caterpillar, one each for each little beak. The trees were lush with leaves, the air was warm with the sun's light, and all was well. But the cardinal began to realize that the goddess seemed more tired, and her belly was growing bigger, and he soon realized that she was going to have a baby. But the sun god, though he loved the earth, was also slowing down. It seemed he had aged many, many years overnight. The cardinal began to worry about his beloved friends. He would sing to them like before in the morning and again in the evening. But with the sun getting more and more tired, it seemed his songs were getting closer and closer and closer together, and the dark sky with Grandmother Moon was lasting longer and longer. Cardinal would bring gifts to the goddess, who sometimes rested on piles of leaves that had begun to fall from the trees. He would bring a nut or some seeds, a fluffy flower, or a red feather from his wing, trying to encourage her to run and play and work all day like she did before. "Don't worry, little friend," the goddess said to the cardinal as she snuggled herself deeper in a blanket of mossy leaves. "There's nothing wrong. We can't run and frolic and play and work nonstop. It can't possibly last forever without a break. Sometimes we have to just let go and rest." And now we are going to rest for a bit, and we will check back in on our redbird and our goddess and the sun god a little later on in our service.
We are the Unitarian Universalist Church of Huntsville, a proudly inclusive spiritual community. Together we build a broader search for meaning, a bolder form of compassion, and a braver voice for justice. To serve and strengthen this mission, we are engaged in worship, in learning, in service, and in outreach. And each week, we practice living our shared values of generosity by taking up an offering. This offering is at times used to directly support our congregation or with partner organizations in our community that live our values. In the spirit of generosity and in the spirit of love, we will take up this offering. This special Solstice offering will support the minister's discretionary fund. Rev Jamie uses this fund to offer financial support to those most in need in our congregation and in the wider community. In this time of financial hardship, your gifts, large and small, will make huge impacts on the lives of our neighbors and our friends. If you would like to donate to our offering, you can place check or cash in the donations in the baskets passed, or you can donate online with the QR code in your order of service. Once again, it's through your generosity that we continue to serve our mission here at UUCH. Let's enjoy our offertory music offered by Ron Guthrie and Anna DeLacy as the greeters pass around the offering baskets.
Nope, that's true on Christmas Eve. We'll just be Ron for this
Oh.
one. Sorry.
Just Ron.
Still great.
Just Ron. Beautiful as always, Ron. In celebration of the winter solstice by Stephanie Noble. Do not be afraid of the darkness. Dark is the rich, fertile earth that cradles the seed and nourishes growth. Dark is the soft night that cradles us to rest. Only in darkness can stars shine across the vastness of space. darkness is the moon's dance so clear. There is mystery woven in the dark, quiet hours. There is a magic in the darkness. Do not be afraid. We were born of this magic. It fills our dreams that root, unravel, and reweave themselves in the shelter of the dark night. The dark has its own hue, its own resonance, its own breath. It fills our soul, not with despair, but with promise. Dark is the gestation of our deep and knowing self. Dark is the cave where we rest and renew our soul. We are born of the darkness, and each night we return to the womb of our beginnings. Do not be afraid of the darkness, for in the depth of that very darkness comes a first glimpse of our own light. The pure inner light of love and knowing. And it glows and it grows, the darkness recedes. As we shed our light, we shed our fear and revel in the wonder of all that is revealed. So do not rush the coming of the sun. Do not crave the lengthening of the day. Celebrate the darkness, here and now, a time of richness and a time of joy.
Christmas, Christmas, glorious Christmas. Glass over white forest, heavenly crowns of sparkling light, glimmering arches in all the houses of God. Hymn, which is the song from time to time. Eternal longing for light and peace. Christmas, Christmas, brilliant Christmas. Shine over white forests.
Beloveds, let us return now to our story with the concerned cardinal and the tired goddess. and the oh so quickly aging sun god, who can't stay up in the sky for very long anymore. Don't worry, little friend, the goddess said to the cardinal as she snuggled herself deeper in a blanket of mossy leaves. There's nothing wrong. We can't run and frolic and play and work nonstop. It can't possibly last forever without a break. Sometimes we just have to let go and rest. Despite her reassurance, the cardinal was a little worried. It was all fine and good for the goddess Earth and the sun god to rest all day, but the air was getting cold, and the leaves were falling off the trees. The bugs and the nuts and the fruits were becoming scarce. Cardinal flitted around, worrying and hoping and gathering whatever he could find to eat and stay warm as the sky grew darker and darker. The goddess came to him and his partner. His babies had all flown off on their own by now, but they still shared a life together. He and his beautiful cardinal love. The goddess's arms were full of fluffy green piles. You almost couldn't see the top of her head. These are for you. She set them down into the ground, and to his surprise, the cardinal realized they were trees. Big trees. How had she carried them? Who knows? She's a goddess after all. And while all the other trees had lost their large, flat leaves, these trees were filled of lush green needles. We call them evergreens. They'll stay green for you and help keep you warm when the sun god cannot provide his light for a while. Just nestle into their branches and remember the promise that the green will return. She smiled, a sort of sad smile. The sun god was aging rapidly now. The cardinal knew this, and the rumor throughout the forest was that he was dying. How will the green return? I know it's hard to talk about Mother Earth, but we all know the truth. The sun is dying. This time, the goddess smiled again, a sweeter smile, more filled with kind, gentle joy, and she rubbed her belly. Yes, little bird, he is, but that is the sacred cycle of life. He will die and return to the earth, and then again the sun will be reborn. It will take the new baby sun time to grow and bring back the warmth and the green, but he will. He will grow and play and frolic and work, and you'll see, little friend, you'll see. And so as the forest was blanketed with thick snow, the cardinal and his partner nestled deep in the branches of the evergreen trees, and they ate whatever they could find, and they fluffed up their feathers for warmth and stayed very still in the long winter night, remembering the busy, hectic, playful days gone by, and realizing that it felt nice to just slow down, to see the stars, to sing their cardinal songs. And when it seemed like it couldn't get any darker, word spread throughout the forest. The sun god has died. The cardinal was very sad, but he trusted what the goddess Earth had said. It was all a part of a cycle. He decided to go and pay a visit to his friend the goddess, and so he left the safety and warmth of his evergreen tree and flew to her home, where he found her resting under a pile of silvery blankets. Were they furs? Were they clouds? Who knows? She's a goddess after all. Her eyes were closed, but he knew something was changing. She was breathing deeply in a way he had never seen before. He offered to help, but she shook her head. It's okay, little friend. This is all a part of the cycle. And so the cardinal sang to her, and he brought her pine cones and snowflakes, and he and his partner flew to the sky and brought back starlight and wrapped the trees around her home with glittering, sparkling lights. And then, when they had waited and waited and waited and waited, they heard the sound of a baby's cry, and they knew the sun had returned. The end. Or, shall I say, the end of this story and the beginning of this story. For this story, like our lives and our natural world, is a story of cycles, of endings that are linked to beginnings, linked to endings, and back and forth and over again in the miraculous wheel of life. This is the message of Solstice. We are part of the cycle of natural things, and after the cold and the darkness comes, the sun will always come back. Pagan teacher Starhawk, who we heard in our chalice lighting, reminds us, hope does not come once into the world and fulfill itself. Hope and light must constantly be reborn, over and over again. They wax and wane and must be renewed. The renewal, the birthing, requires labor. Labor means work and commitment and perseverance through that time when it seems you just can't push anymore. The child begins to emerge, is drawn back, and pushed forward another increment. Starhawk continues, we are the laborers. We are the spark of light. New possibilities kick and squirm within us. And no, it's not easy to bring them forth, but we are strong and we are made for this work. And so we breathe and move forward in love. And so we gather and pause and rest on this solstice night, not because it is the end or the beginning, but because it is the standing still time, the moment after death, before rebirth, the time of rest that brings us new imaginings. It is in this resting time where new wisdom appears. Our human bodies crave this rest, and we must make space for this pausing where deep knowledge and connection can take root. And I truly don't just mean this in connection to the metaphor of solstice, but because it is a long-lost part of our physical biology, to pause and rest and find sacred knowledge in the darkness. Barbara Brown Taylor shares this. Before the invention of the light bulb, almost no one slept for 8 hours at a time. This is a modern convention made possible by an abundance of artificial light. In the long centuries before the advent of electricity, people spent as much as 14 hours each day in the dark. And this affected them. It affected their rest and their activity. When researchers recruited some of the most normal people they could find to replicate this pattern, those people began to discover states of consciousness that they never experienced before. At first, they played catch-up, sleeping an average of 11 hours a day. And then eventually, they settled down to 8 hours again, but the hours were not consecutive. With 14 full hours of darkness available to them, most people would lay quietly in bed for a couple hours each night before falling asleep. And then 4 hours later or so, they woke up and spent another couple of hours resting in the darkness before falling asleep once more. And the rest hours turned out to be the most interesting ones to the scientists, since during those hours, the sleepers were neither actively awake nor truly sleeping. Their body chemistry hovered somewhere in between, just like their brainwaves did. The director of the study said that it was like finding a fossil of human consciousness, a state of awareness that had largely withered away. In prehistoric times, this rest state may have provided a channel of communication between dreams and waking life, supplying rich resources for myth and fantasy. The existence of this rest state may also explain why so many ancient stories are powered by these big dreams. But once people learned how to light the night, they began to cut down the number of hours they spent in the darkness each day. Eventually, they condensed their sleep as well, compressing it into 8-hour blocks with no lag time in the middle or the end either. Now a good night's sleep means 7 or more hours of uninterrupted sleep that usually ends when the alarm rings, whether the sun is up or not. The long hours of rest before and during and after sleep are gone, along with that state of consciousness that went with them. Collateral damage of a world in love with light. This scientific story reminds us that despite our modern conveniences, we still need to pause and rest in the darkness. Our bodies and our minds have work to do then. Our minds have wisdom to gain from this time of waiting. To honor Solstice truly and to honor ourselves, we must pause and sit in the deep darkness, letting the unknown truths begin to emerge. Because, friends, it is no secret that when we wake up from this dreamy time, when we move from this season of peace into the new year, there are challenges and worries coming at us from all kinds of directions. There will be challenges to our peace and our thriving and to that of our neighbors. And we will need all the wisdom and the connection and the banked up energy and strength and the hope reborn over and over again, all of that and more to meet all of these challenges. And I believe we will meet them with love and compassion at our core. But for now, let's remember where we are in our cycle. We're not there yet. We are in this moment, this breath before the push, this dreamy moment between sleep and waking. Let us live in this stillness just a little bit longer. Let us cherish this sacred darkness and listen to the wisdom it is here to teach us. I'd encourage you to remain seated as we sing together number 49, Stillness Reigns.
Another reading on the winter solstice, this one by Rebecca Parker. Perhaps for a moment, the typewriters will stop clicking, the wheels stop rolling, the computers desist from computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard as the earth hangs poised in the crystalline darkness and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season when holiness is heard and the splendor of living is revealed, stunned to stillness. Beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. There are inexplicable mysteries. We are not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one whose gestures alter the earth's axis toward love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are caught in a web of stars.
Friends, we have been speaking of this quietness, this stillness, this time of rest. Now I invite you into a moment of guided meditation where we will explore that darkness and that rest. Find a comfortable position in your body. Plant your feet on the floor. Lay your hands in your lap. Straighten your back. Get comfortable in whatever ways are comfortable in your body. Lower your gaze or close your eyes. Relax, warm, heavy in your body. Breathe with me in 4 deep, intentional breaths. Let everything in you be still. As you find this stillness in this quiet darkness, imagine a time before time, a space before this place. Imagine, if you can, back through generations to the ancestors. The ancestors' fires glow under the star-filled sky, the same sky above us now. For we are as far from the sun as we can be. Remember just half a year past when we had little time for rest as daylight filled the sky and we were busy. Working, being in our heat-filled, lush green world bursting with life. Keep remembering how that bursting life began to shift and change in its cycle through the seasons, the ancient seasons of planting and harvesting, of basking in the sun's warmth and fading in the winter's snow. So too our lives follow this cycle, full and fallow, light and dark. Welcome this darkness. Let it settle in the well of your soul where wisdom rests. And take heart, the light will return slowly. We will welcome the sun once again. But for now, may this vast darkness offer shelter and solace. Rest deeply until the wheel of the year turns once again. Let's take our 4 in and out breaths once again. Slowly, you may return to this room, return to this time, this place. Open your eyes, raise your gaze, renewed by this time together in this sweet darkness. Will you join me now in rising in body or spirit to sing hymn number 1055? That's going to be in the teal hymnal, How Sweet the Darkness. I'd invite you to stay risen and place a hand over your heart. Now we leave this place, and now we begin the months-long journey back into the light, toward spring, toward summer, toward hope for our future. And so we extinguish our chalice. In the stillness of winter, as the wheel of the year turns, in the silence of the darkness, as the sun stands still, we return to ourselves to hear the whisper of the earth, the whisper of our own hearts, the call of our own spirits, summoning the dawn's new light, the promise of a new day. May we heed the power of the darkness, stunned into stillness by its beauty. May we allow ourselves to rest in the deep song of our soul, to honor one another and our earth, and to welcome a new dawn. Blessed be. Amen. And as we close our time, we will have a moment to rest once again. Victoria will play some meditative music, and you may sit in this darkness a little while longer or leave quietly, whatever makes sense for your life. Blessings on this, the darkest night of the year. Merry Solstice. Amen and blessed be.